Welcome to Weasel Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a tactics video for Sun and Moon Celestial Storm Hydro Fury theme deck. This theme deck is kind of an oddball one, not a very strong one. It is a water and fire deck. There is 16 water and 4 fire in the deck. The 4 number is kind of odd too, but it doesn't have much use for the fire energy, and if you're relying on that, you're probably in trouble. So we'll go ahead, we'll get right into our starters for this deck. Starter number 1 we're going to look at is Furfrou. 90 health, colorless, has a return attack, which does 20 damage, and you may draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. Obviously, this is a great card to start off with. You start using those cards from your hand, and you then get to use return, restock your hand every turn. As long as you're playing cards from your hand, it's a great way to cycle through your deck quickly, get to the cards you need. The other starter to mention is Dunsparce. Dunsparce is colorless with 50 health, has a strike and run ability. You search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. If you put a Pokemon on your bench this way, you may switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So not only can you get a basic Pokemon out on your bench, but then you can switch it into the active spot. It's a great way to, if you have Dunsparce, to use it to pick up Furfrou and get him into your active spot. The Sudden Flash ability can be used to paralyze the enemy and do 10 damage, but I mean, it's a 50-50 chance and doesn't do all that much. That's it for our starter options. So next we're going to look at our defense, and we really don't have a whole heck of a lot for defense. There is Abomasnow, whose 80 damage attack can put the enemy to sleep, which gives you a 50-50 chance of them still being asleep on their turn, as long as they don't evolve it or do a switch to pull it out of the front lines. Don't forget, we also have Paralyze on Dunsparce. It's a 50-50 chance for that Paralyze, but those are good ways to stall an enemy while you're trying to set something up. Hopefully for Abomasnow, it's a good way to be able to use Hypno Hammer. Hopefully they're still asleep on their turn, hit them with Hypno Hammer again to knock them out. So that's really it for our defense too. Next, we're going to pop into our heavy hitters. First one we're going to talk about is someone we've already seen, and that's Abomasnow. Snover is a water type with 80 health, has an Ice Shard attack that does 20 damage, unless you're fighting someone that is a fighting type. If it's a fighting type Pokemon, then you're going to be able to do 60 damage. Still not something I would really rest a lot of hope upon. You got better attackers than that, even going up against fighting types. Abomasnow does have 130 health, pretty durable, water type. Hypno Hammer is 4 energy attack for 80 damage, and it puts the enemy's Pokemon asleep. That's pretty useful, but it's not foolproof. And 80 damage for 4 energy is pretty weak, honestly. A lot of other Pokemon for that amount of energy or less are going to be able to do 100, 120 damage or even more. So 80 is a little on the weak side. The ability, though, that he has is kind of nice, and we'll talk about it some more later, but Blessings of the Frost. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may attach a water energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So it's a great way to cycle that energy back out of your discard and onto some other Pokemon where you need it. Next up for damage is the Swampert line, which is the featured Pokemon of this deck. First, we'll talk about the earlier evolutionary steps. Got those kind of backwards there. Mudkip is a basic Pokemon with 70 health, water type. No impressive attacks there. Marshtomp has 90 health. Again, nothing too impressive here. Muddy Water does 20 damage and 20 damage to a benched. And Surf is a 3 energy attack for 70 damage. Now that's pretty impressive, especially for stage 1. However, that's not really where we would want to hang out with this evolution and fight with this guy, because only 90 health when you got 3 energy out there, it's kind of weak. So the main Pokemon we're looking at here is Swampert. 160 health, water type. has a Hydro Pump attack. This attack does 80 damage plus 20 more damage times the amount of water energy attached to this Pokemon. Now in this deck, chances are we're going to be putting 3 water energy on him, which is 60 bonus damage plus the base 80. That gives us 140 damage, just kind of by default. That's not bad. And you have the ability to bump that up even more. For every water energy you stick on him, he's going to do another 20 damage. So that 140 can be bumped up to 160, 180, even 200 if you need it. So Swampert has potential to hit pretty hard. 160 health means he's going to be staying out there a little bit. You have some flexibility, but it is going to take a lot of energy on him to make him hit hard. Don't forget about that ability, Power Draw. We're going to be talking about that again a little bit later. But once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand and then draw 3 cards. So just having Swampert on your bench gives you a lot of flexibility for drawing. The only other attacker really to talk about is Frost Rotom. A little bit on the weak side with only 90 health. He is a water type. Rotomotor, the ability, will not come into play in this. We're not going to see any kind of Pokemon tool play involved here, so we're not going to worry about that. The 2 energy Frost Crush, though, is interesting. Its base damage is only 10, but this attack does 20 more damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So if your opponent has, let's say, an active Pokemon with 4 energy, and then another Pokemon on the bench with another 4 energy, that's 8 energy times 20. That's 160 damage plus the 10 base, 170 damage. So Frost Rotom has a chance to really come in and hit hard at the right moment in the game. So Frost Rotom's nice to have on the bench. Get him 1 energy on and just kind of hold him there. When your opponent comes out and crushes your active Pokemon with some big heavy hitter, do the math, check how much energy they have, and then see if you want to bring Frost Rotom out to just knock him out real nice and quick. Keep in mind, though, that if you knock out an active Pokemon with a lot of energy, you're going to be cutting Frost Rotom's damage down considerably because you're eliminating those 4 energy from play. So Frost Rotom may need to retreat back out to your bench and restock with that energy, and then come out again at a key and critical moment. Frost Rotom's kind of a specialty player that you're going to swap in and out as needed. Now that's it for our damage dealers. Hydro Fury does not have a lot of big damage dealers. Frost Rotom is very situational based on how your opponent's doing. If he's not putting a lot of high energy Pokemon out there, you're not going to be able to do a lot of damage with him. Swampert needs a lot of energy to work, but can do damage. Abomasnow hits a little light, so I wouldn't really depend on him a lot. So then we're just kind of left with some other Pokemon that don't play a very important role here. One of them is our only fire type in the deck, and we have 2 Slugmas and a Magcargo. They're fire types that have 70 health and 90 health. Slugma doesn't really have much to do there. Very low damage, really nothing special. Magcargo's Combustion is a 3 energy attack for 50 damage. That's not a lot of damage for 3 energy, and it's sitting on a Pokemon that only has 90 health. So if you're using Magcargo to do damage, you're probably in a bit of a desperate situation, or you're facing a grass deck perhaps, at which point Magcargo still is kind of weak, because even when you double that Combustion, you're still only doing 100 damage. Now, Magcargo's ability, however, is kind of interesting. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a single card, shuffle your deck, and then put that card on top of it. Now, that alone is so-so. You're putting that card on top of your deck, and you know you're going to be able to draw that next turn. However, if you couple that with Swampert's ability, then it makes it really interesting, because Swampert can discard a card and draw 3 cards. Now, Magcargo can set you up to draw exactly what you need or want at that moment in time. So if you have both of these cards on your bench or in the active spots, you can really play them well against each other to pull exactly the card you want. It's no longer just drawing 3 cards and hoping for the best. You know exactly what you can get, at least from one of those cards. Also in the participation award category is Skitty and Delcatty. Skitty has very little here. Does have a fake out ability that can paralyze your opponent, but that's not something you're really going to rest a lot of power or energy into. Delcatty has 90 health and has a 2 energy 40 damage cat kick, also not very good. If you're using these guys, again, you're looking at desperate times. However, Delcatty does have an ability called Search for Friends. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put 2 supporter cards from your discard pile into your hand. So this is a good way to pull back a Professor Kukui so you can do some more damage, or a Copycat or How to get some good draws, or Tate and Lisa if you're going to do another switch, or an Apricorn Maker if you're going to be trying to get some more Pokeballs. So Delcatty has a lot of flexibility. The one downside of all of these different abilities, and the way you have to play this deck, is your bench is going to be full of a bunch of cards that you really don't want. You have to have Skitty out there and then evolve Delcatty to get those supporter cards back. And then Delcatty's taking up a spot on your bench. Magcargo is not really great for damage, but you want him on the bench for that ability. Swampert you want to keep around for his ability. As is the same with, Abomasmo. When you play him, you get to use his ability, but again, he's not a great attacker. So what tends to happen is your bench gets full up with a bunch of junk Pokemon you don't even want to use. So you got to be careful with that and use these cards very tactically to make sure you aren't wasting space on your bench that you need for something else. Next up, we're going to look at our supporters. So Sun and Moon tend to have a lot of draws, and this deck holds true to that form. We have 2 Hows, which are just draw 3 cards, which are nice. We have 1 Lily. Lily allows you to draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's your first turn, you draw until you have 8 cards. So again, you want to save this till you have very few cards around. We also have 2 Professor Kukuis, and he allows you to draw 2 cards and gives you a bonus 20 damage for that round. We have 1 Copycat. Copycat allows you to shuffle your hand into the deck, then draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. So again, it's kind of tactical, it's kind of situational. You want your opponent to have lots of cards and you to either have junk or very few cards. You can use it to cycle some cards or draw some good stuff. We also have Tate and Lisa. Tate and Lisa allow you to shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 5 cards, so a good way to cycle your hand. They also provide you with a switch ability. In this deck, draws are probably more important, but keep it in mind that Tate and Lisa do have that switch ability, so you may want to hold back on using Tate and Lisa unless you really need to. Last but not least for draws is we have Apricorn Maker. Apricorn Maker allows you to search your deck for up to 2 item cards that have the word ball in their name. Reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is pretty cool because you actually have a lot of different Pokeballs in this deck. There's 2 Nest Balls, an Ultra Ball, a Timer Ball, and a Lure Ball. So there's a lot of different cards that you can pull out to help you then build your hand, build your Pokemon up. So he is pretty important to have and use. Definitely want to make use of him. So those are our draws. Now we're going to look at what we have to pull Pokemon. Get those Pokemon onto your bench, get them up and ready to go. First, we do have 2 Nest Balls. Nest Balls allow you to pull a basic Pokemon from your deck and put it on your bench. Sad part is there isn't a lot of good basic Pokemon in here. There's no basic Pokemon you really want to play to fight with. There's no heavy damage dealing basics. No specialty basics. So Nest Ball is really going to be used when you have a Stage 1, Stage 2 Pokemon in your hand and you need to get them going. We have an Ultra Ball, which allows you to discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for any Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. So this is a great way to get those higher level evolutions, so your Swamperts, your Abomasnows, things like that. We do have a Timer Ball, which allows you to flip 2 coins. For each heads, you can search your deck for an evolution Pokemon. Again, a great way to evolve up those lower form Pokemon. And we have a Lure Ball. Flip 3 coins for each head. Put an evolution Pokemon from your discard pile back into your hand. This is a great way to recover Pokemon that have been knocked out. The ones you're going to be looking at there are going to be Swampert, Marshtomp, and Abomasnow, depending on what other Pokemon you have in your hand. Now, along those lines with pulling stuff out of your discard pile, we also have Rescue Stretcher, which allows you to choose one of the 2 options. You can put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or you can shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile back into your deck. Again, this is very tactical and situational. You lose something that's critical, like a Swampert, and you already have a Mudkip ready to go, then pulling that Swampert back out so that you can get them evolved back up and get them back into battle can be useful. That's it for pulling Pokemon. So now we're looking at energy. Now this deck is not a big energy hog. Abomasnow does take 4 energy. Swampert takes 3 or more energy, but that's really it. No one else is really a heavy hitter that you're going to be using a lot or really all that much of an energy hog. So it's a pretty efficient deck that way. We do have one lady that allows you to search your deck for up to 4 energy, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So if you're running low on energy, that'll pump it up there quickly. The Masked Royal is kind of an oddball card, especially for this deck. He allows you to attach basic energy card from your hand to one of your Stage 2 Grass, Fire, or Water Pokemon. Well, you only have one Stage 2 Pokemon. So the Masked Royal just allows you to attach 1 energy to Swampert. That's really the only option for the card. Like I said, it's an oddball one to have in there. Just keep in mind that when you do have it, its only use is for Swampert. That's it for energy. Now on to manipulation. And for manipulation, we only have 2 cards. We have 1 Escape Rope. This each player has to switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. And you do have 1 switch to just swap out your own Pokemon. Now, going back to those different categories, don't forget about your Pokemon either. So when you're pulling Pokemon, we also have Dunsparce that we can look at. He can pull Pokemon using his ability. For drawing, of course, we have Furfru. More importantly, though, we do have that combo of Magcargo and Swampert, who give you really good mid-game pulling power to pull exactly the cards you want. Sadly, there aren't a lot of great cards in this deck to pull. If you have Swampert on your deck, you're pretty much good to go. So that is the entirety of the card. So now it's time to talk stats. And all in all, this is kind of a weak deck. It really doesn't have a lot of punching power. Very weak hitters. There's not a lot of great starters. There's no defense in here. So there isn't a lot to talk about. For power, I feel I'm being generous with a 2. You really only have 3 power hitters at all. One of them is pretty low on the list. That's Abomasnow with only an 80 damage attack. Frost Rotom is very situational based on your opponent. And then, of course, Swampert is your one real heavy hitter. But if Swampert gets knocked out, you're going to be hard up for replacing him with anything else. You don't really have backup damage dealers. So power is sitting at a 2. Speed is how quickly you can get your big hitters out there, powered up, ready to go and start doing damage. And in this deck, that's a slow grind. We have Abomasnow, who's a stage 1 and needs 4 energy. We have Swampert, who is a stage 2 and needs at least 3 energy to start doing damage. So it takes several turns, several rounds to be able to get these Pokemon on your bench, evolved up, stocked with energy, and able to do their damage. You really don't have any early game good hitters, so you're very dependent on having that free time to be able to build your deck up. Agility, however, is your ability to actually get Pokemon out and kind of respond based on what your opponent is doing. And with the number of draws you have and the number of Pokeballs you have, it's actually fairly easy to start getting the Pokemon you need and want out there. It's just a matter of building them up over time. So it's an agile deck, but it's slow. Energy efficiency is sitting at a 3. There's nothing that dumps energy. There's nothing that really discards any of that energy. And most of the Pokemon don't take a lot of energy except for 2 of your hitters. So it's a pretty energy efficient deck, especially when you have 20 energy in the deck and a couple cards to help you play with that energy. As for complexity, it's not a complex deck. It's a very simple deck. You only have a couple cards that are really worth doing anything out there, so you focus on getting them up to power, getting them into play as soon as possible. As far as resilience, it's sitting at a 2. You don't have a lot of high health Pokemon. You only have a couple that are decent in health. You don't have a lot of defense. You don't have a lot of manipulation to really trick up the opponent. So resiliency is only sitting at a 2. For type ability, which is how well you deal with other type advantages and disadvantages, we're sitting at a 1. It's not a good deck in that area. The reason I say that is everything in your deck that you're going to use for damage is going to be water-based. And you're going to have the weaknesses to grass and metal, and you're not going to have any real advantages there. You do have Magcargo, but his damage is really low. You have some colorless type, but none of them are heavy hitters. So you're totally dependent on your water type attackers for the most part. And that leaves you pretty vulnerable to those weaknesses that they have. There's not a lot of variety here. As for manipulation, we have a little bit of manipulation, but it's all very kind of hit and miss. You have some chances at paralyzations. You have a Pokemon that can do sleep. You do have the escape rope. So there are some things you can do to try to trip up your opponent, but they're few and far between. So manipulation's sitting at a 2. All in all, I find that the Hydro Fury theme deck is just too weak to be competitive. There's nothing here impressive to build a deck off of. What few kind of decent things you have, there's no synergy in the deck to really get it going, to build it up, to get it stocked with energy quickly so that you can start doing that damage right away. You're forced to keep a lot of different abilities on your bench, but they're all attached to things that really don't help you out in any way. And if you want to use the other version of that one to do the same kind of effect, you got to clear something off on your bench and then fill it up with junk again. So all in all, this Sun and Moon Celestial Storm Hydro Fury theme deck is just a hard pass. Not a good deck. I wouldn't use it. There's a lot better water decks out there that are more dependable, are going to get you higher damage, are going to be more resilient. I would stick to those and I would stay away from Hydro Fury. Swampert just isn't good enough to carry this deck. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.